Welcome back to the Evo India podcast. It's our second podcast of 2024, and we're picking up where we left off last week. Last week, we spoke to you about all the exciting new cars that we should expect in 2024, but we focused on the relatively budget end of the...
Yeah, because you can't call a Tiguan or a Kodiaq affordable anymore.
Correct.
Because everything has gone up in price. Actually, the Creta also. By now, the Creta prices should be out. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll probably have a ticker that gives you the prices. I don't think that's going to be cheap either.
Yeah.
So yep. But now we are going up in pricing.
Correct. We're talking luxury cars and we're talking about EVs because there are a few budget end EVs that we didn't address last week. So let's start with what I think is the coolest car that will come out of the coming year, the EQG.
EQG, the G with the electric powertrain. Okay, now it is questionable whether it's going to come this year or the year after.
Yes.
This year, it will be shown globally. And I don't see any reason why it cannot come to India because that's not going to be assembled in India. There's going to be a CBU.
Complete CBU.
And with the way G-Wagon prices are going, Mercedes can price it whatever they want.
It will be priced at whatever because first
they
of all,
can also offer it only to Maybach owners who have 2 kids in the family under 4 years of age and only white seats in the car. And they can really narrow down the demographic and still there will be more buyers than there will be kits available to them or actually fully built cars available to them to bring to India.
Because global demand will also be insane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So everybody in Dubai will want electric G-Wagons now.
Go dune bashing in the EQG.
To do what? What is that G circle thingy called?
Tank turn?
Or whatever that thing. So Instagram will be full of those, right? With 1 million views each. So I'm sure the EQG...
You will be doing it while peeling off the screen.
So
you'll do tank turn while doing a Sirish.
Something different, no? You have to be innovative, right?
Yeah. So EQG, I don't know, global unveil is next year. I hope it comes to India very quickly after. Mercedes, with their CBUs, they generally don't delay things.
There's no reason to delay things.
The only reason I see is global demand so high that they can't get allocation.
But dude, in India, they can price it whatever, make whatever profit they want.
Correct.
So I'm sure Santosh has already told them that, bhai, please, mere ko do.
Mere ko 20 chahiye.
Mere ko 20 chahiye.
And as for the GLS, that's already here. We've already got our reviews out all over the place, YouTube, website. It'll be in the magazine in the Feb issue as well. So GLS is here, minor updates, nothing major, but it looks very, very cool. It's so imposing.
I think now it looks cooler.
Yeah.
The grill, just that grill, has made such a significant difference.
I think it's very cool.
I'm astonished.
And we keep shouting no chrome, less chrome, but they've put more chrome over here.
Yeah, but
and
it
looks crazy.
Expensive.
Yeah.
And it's really selling well.
Yeah. And I think whatever they've done to the front end, they flattened it out, made it look a little...
It looks more aggressive and strong and more character.
There's another Mercedes we have to talk about, the GLC Coupe.
Okay, so I started off the year in the GLC, not the Coupe, but the GLC regular. Yeah. But that was the diesel engine. We had driven the petrol earlier.
Correct.
And the one thing that struck me was just how bloody smooth that diesel engine was. So 2024 is going to be the year of electrics, and we are going to talk about electrics on this podcast. But that diesel engine was so smooth. Obviously, it's the mild hybrid also.
Yes.
And the way the auto start-stop kicks in, it's almost like a Toyota Camry. And we've always said that the Toyota Camry, the hybrid, whenever the engine kicks in and switches off, you can barely feel it. This is the diesel. And it almost is imperceptible. So smooth. And every time you brake, the engine goes off, obviously to save on fuel. So I'm sure you'll get some damn good fuel economy on that diesel. As it is, those 2-liter diesel engines gave you terrific fuel economy. This will be one step better. What a diesel engine. And that just reminds me that diesels aren't going anywhere in a hurry until legislation bans it outright and says no diesel. End of story.
No, even then, I think
hybrids will continue, man.
Hybrid diesels that exist, and hybrid diesel will be so efficient,
so
they probably won't be able to ban them.
Really nice. Except in Delhi, with that 10-year rule, nobody's buying diesels. And Delhi is the biggest market for luxury cars. So that's one drawback. But we were talking about the coupe.
Yes.
Now, the coupe will come this year. we had the coupe with the earlier generation GLC.
Yeah.
We had it with the 43 to start, and then it was with the regular petrol and diesel as well. I'm sure that's going to come, and that is like a small incremental price up for quite a significant improvement in terms of styling.
Very big improvement. It
So,
looks really, really cool.
Really nice,
Yeah.
you know. So I think that's a nice addition to the range. Give it that slight premium pricing. Don't compromise too much on practicality, and it's nice on the road, right?
What also will come probably towards the end of the year is the new E-Class.
Yeah, and this is probably the car that we should lead this podcast with because that's going to be the most important car
Yeah.
in that segment. Mercedes, they outsell everybody else in the luxury car market because of the strength of the E-Class. Like, for instance, right now, BMW sells more luxury electrics than Mercedes does. But the E-Class is their bread, butter, jam, and cheese, all dipped into a small little glass of sugar, chai. You know,
I'm hungry, yeah.
it's lovely. And the E-Class, for all that we say about the 5 Series, and I'm a huge 5 Series fan. I love throwing it around. It's such a great car to drive.
Yeah.
But for what an E-Class buyer wants,
Yeah.
only an E-Class can deliver. Like, the greatest joy comes when you arrive at an airport and an E-Class comes to pick you up. Oh man, you sit in the back of the E-Class.
These privileged people who get
it's-
E-Classes to pick them up.
It's lovely. And sometimes when Merc sends the C-Class, you're like, oh, you can't sit in the back
sit
of
in
the
the front
C-Class. You
seat.
have to sit in the front.
Or
But-
tell the driver, get to
yeah,
back. You
and when you have your wife, then you tell the driver to sit at the back and then you drive.
Absolutely.
You know, but the E-Class, what a
Too good.
car, what a car. When the pictures were out, we put it up on our Instagram of the Chinese long wheelbase E-Class, and let's make no two bones about the fact that is the car that's coming
Correct.
to India. Friends of mine call me and say, please speak to your friends at Mercedes. I want two. And this was not one or two, these were like 6-7 guys,
Who want to?
and all said two. It was like a standard thing, two. One for me
they
and
want
one for Papa.
allocations of the EQG. That's why they want.
No, they're all EQG pricing is even E-Class owner looks at the EQG or the G pricing and their eyes fall out. The E-Class buyers feel poor when they look at G-Class prices.
True.
It's ridiculous. And this E-Class will be slightly less than 1 crore. It won't hit 1 crore. That's psychological. Unless
I
Mercedes
think it-
does like a
No.
launch edition E-Class prices it at 1 crore, it'll still sell.
No, they'll do an 1 crore plus because they'll have that 300D variant which has the bigger 6-cylinder
Probably.
and all of that.
And the AMG
shape.
line.
Exactly. And it will cross 1
But I'm
crore.
telling you that E-Class is... and I have no doubt that this will improve upon the earlier E in terms of comfort, in terms of all the razzmatazz inside, in terms of luxury, speed.
100%. We saw the car in Munich. We did a
Yes.
walk around of it.
Yes.
We sat inside it. It has that Mercedes super screen
Yep.
or whatever it's called
Hyper
now.
screen, super screen.
Yeah,
जो
one
भी
of the
है.
two.
Mega screen.
Yeah.
Bada screen.
But it will have space.
Yeah.
It will surely have space. And that's what people want.
comfort.
Yeah.
An E-Class is an E-Class is an E-Class. End
True.
of story. And I think that's the most important luxury car that will be launched this year.
Yeah. From Audi, the new Q8. Updated Q8.
Okay, so I drove this in
Yes.
South Africa. I was wondering why such a large contingent of Indian journalists had decamped to South Africa to drive what was such a mild facelift that
What is
on the...
New headlights?
I'll tell you,
Ah.
okay? We went up from the ground floor to the terrace for the presentation. The product manager was in the lift. That lift ride was not even 30 seconds, and he told us everything that was there on the Q8. So that's the sum total. It's basically new wheels, a more, what do they call it? More expressive face.
Expressive.
A more expressive face and new stitching on the inside.
Wow.
Right? The
Exciting.
updates are so minor that
Yeah.
even they struggle to talk about it. But the fact remains that the Q8 has always been such a good car to start off with
Yeah.
that why fix it if it ain't broke?
Yeah.
And in India, it's not sold like a Q7, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's obviously more niche than a Q7. And you don't see too many Q8s on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So when this facelifted Q8 comes in,
Yeah.
a person who knows a Q8 will like maybe point out one or two of the differences. But it still looks cool.
Correct.
It still looks appealing. It's nice to drive. It feels very expensive on the inside.
And Audi's done that smart thing by bringing that celebration edition in, which is like 40 lakhs lower than
True.
the top end.
And that's what
So-
sold well for the
Exactly.
Q8. And Audi says that the Q8 customer is a very treasured customer for them, because this is the more progressive customer that also drives himself or herself. A Q7 is generally chauffeur driven by the very nature of that vehicle, the SUV. Whereas a Q8 owner drives themselves, so they tend to be more enthusiastic, and the enthusiastic lot tends to talk a lot, so they are very strong proponents and advocates of the brand, and that word of mouth helps them sell other variants and other cars. So a Q8 customer, very important to Audi in India, and that's why they're going to push it even harder, and that's why like a huge contingent of us had gone last year to South Africa to drive it. So
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to driving it. Haven't spent so much time with it in India, and hopefully with this one I'll spend a little bit more time.
What else do you think Audi is going to bring this year?
Electrics, the Q4, the Q6 e-tron,
Q6, yeah, the Q6,
the
is gonna
Q6
be big.
e-tron.
Yeah.
I should be in Munich sometime in March to see the first unveil of it. That's similar to the Taycan that
Yeah.
you saw.
The Macan.
The Macan, sorry.
Yes.
Similar to the Macan, the
Yeah.
full EV Macan. This shares the same platform,
Yeah.
the PPE platform.
PPE, correct.
Right? So that's going to be a big thing for Audi. Will it be assembled in India? I don't think so, because
The volumes.
not just the volumes. I think the volumes are still okay, but the whole group, the Skoda-Volkswagen group in India, needs to get their CBU and their EV strategy in place. And I think we're going to talk about that later on. It must be there on your list. But the volume brands need to start off first,
Yeah.
and then Audi will follow. So that all needs to be sorted out. So Audi, they are part of the group. So the group strategy takes precedent over pure Audi strategy. So I don't think the Q6 is going to be assembled here, at least not to start off with. But the Q6 e-tron is going to be
But
very
it is
interesting.
the next step for Audi EVs.
Yep.
It is a big step.
Yep. And Audi's globally, their EV push will actually start like becoming big news this year. The A8 replacement also should come out. It won't come to India this year, but it'll come out globally. So there's a lots of action from Audi's end.
And keeping within the group, Porsche's got some exciting stuff coming. The Panamera, that's going to come. And from what I understand, the Panamera is going to come first in its base variant and then in the turbo variants later.
So the V6 and none of that active suspension that you saw.
No.
But that active suspension is what gives it that unreal ride quality, right?
Absolutely. And that's, I think, the biggest party trick. But it's not only a party trick. It's not a gimmick at all, because it really works. And it's phenomenal. It rides beautifully. It handles beautifully. I'm telling you, Suresh, it was dark, I admit. So I couldn't see the road too well. But the first time I went down the road, I thought the road, wow, perfectly cambered. The second time I went down the road in a non-active Panamera, it was just flat. But that Panamera leans into corners to such an angle that you feel like you're on perfectly cambered roads. It's unreal.
So would its ride comfort actually eclipse that of an S-Class?
It's hard to say, because I drove it in Germany. It was actually quite funny. We took a left onto one road, and the lead instructor, the lead car, said, okay, on this road you have a proper test of ride quality. And it was like one of our best highways, because it had the minorest, the smallest.
It's all
undulation.
perspective, isn't it?
Exactly. So once we get it to India, then we'll know. We drive it in India. We drive
So that'll
it on,
come only with the turbo.
That's on the turbo, which will come much later. But knowing Porsche generally brings all of their high-performance cars here.
Well, we haven't got the V6S Cayenne in India, so we haven't got the S.
That's true.
Actually, the S is not the V6 also, it is the V8.
V8 now.
But we
yeah.
haven't got the V8 yet.
But you do have the Cayenne turbo.
No, the
Not
new Cayenne, we have the turbo, we don't have the Turbo S.
Yeah. But you get...
No, we don't have the turbo. Hello.
No?
What am I saying? It's only the V6.
Acha.
That's the thing.
Okay.
And that's what I wrote about also. That only the V6, it doesn't make any sense to me, except it does make a lot of sense because Porsche sold out, like they did like a whole bunch of cars and
all these
they
luxury
delivered
car
all of it.
manufacturers do what they want and they get sold out.
Yeah. So and that V6 is also lovely to drive
It is.
in the car.
It is 100%.
Yeah, you imagine that it's the same platform that is shared amongst the entire Volkswagen group.
But
And
it feels
how
like...
does Porsche manage to do ride and handling? How do they manage to extract even more performance from that same engine, make it sound even better,
And
the
feel of the
tactile
steering.
feel?
Everything.
How do they do it, man?
Magic dust.
It's seriously, man,
Yeah.
that Porsche. I think we're all just Porsche fanboys out here,
100%.
but it's for a reason.
Yeah.
Because of what they do with their cars.
Correct.
New 911 this year?
New 911, the talks of a hybrid. The 992.2.
So that also,
Yeah.
right?
Or and maybe the GT cars also may go hybrid is what they're saying, but I don't know. I don't want to think about all these things right now. But the Macan is going electric.
And that is coming.
And that is coming.
So we will have that. The Taycan. Do we have an update on the Taycan?
Taycan
That's
update
also
is
coming.
Yeah.
So we have an update on the Taycan as well. So this year is going to be the year of electrics
Yes.
for Porsche. They're going to focus even more and even harder on their electrics. Macan will be a huge thing. You've had a passenger ride in it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be really interesting because Porsche with the Taycan, they showed that EV can be fun to drive.
It is. And that fun to drive bit, it blew my mind. I'm telling you, they were going full sideways around that track. Like non-stop sideways.
So this will be the first fun to drive electric SUV.
It from first impressions, I think it'll be fun. I
Bodes well for the Q6 also because it's the same platform.
Yeah, but it's again what we were talking about. How does Porsche manage to do what Porsche does?
True.
You know. Then there's the Range Rover Evoque, which is coming, which I've actually driven, and I don't know if this podcast is going to be out in time for the embargo, so I'm not going to say anything about it just yet.
Big difference?
No.
Okay. That is no because embargo, no, or no because there's no.
See, I can't talk about what the changes are. Actually, no, I can't talk about what the changes are. I signed an embargo. So, no, I can't say anything. I'm sorry. You can go online and see what the new Evoque is like because internationally it has been unveiled. Internationally, reviews are out as well. So if you want to know what it's like to drive, go check those out.
But Desi journalists can't say
Desi journalists, at least I signed one embargo. I'm not allowed to say anything.
All right.
So review will be out soon. Or
Okay.
if it's out, then check the link over here. Now let's move on to the EVs.
All right.
Okay, we're done with the luxury car space. We didn't talk too much about BMW. What will BMW bring? 5 Series?
Of course.
Yeah.
So 5 Series will come. The iX1
Yeah.
that will actually start delivering volumes for BMW in India. So BMW also definitely, and the 5 Series is not your regular wheelbase 5 Series.
Yes, we'll get a
It
long
is the
wheelbase.
long wheelbase 5 Series. So that's also something that will now go head to head with Mercedes with the E-Class.
Finally.
You know, so they'll have a like-to-like E-Class rival.
And I
then
think-
what happens, we'll have to see.
Yeah, it'll do well for Mercedes for BMW, sorry, because they've in fact killed the regular wheelbase 3 Series because the GL was so
True.
successful.
Yep.
You know, so I think when the long 5 comes, it will open up a whole new segment of buyers that were obviously only clued into the E-Class because they wanted that space.
True.
You know. Now let's talk EVs. You just mentioned iX1. Mercedes will bring their challenger, which is the EQA,
Yep.
to India.
Yep.
Do you know timelines? Any idea?
Hard to say.
No.
Hard to say.
Yeah.
Because that again has to be assembled here. The GLB is not assembled here.
Yeah.
So that's why the price is on the higher side.
And EQB.
And the EQB.
Yeah.
You know, so EQA, because the A line is done here. You know, so I think the EQA will be assembled here. So that's why it's going to take a little bit more time. But that could theoretically be a big volume push in the EV space for Mercedes.
Yes, 100%. And it's important for them to attack that end of the segment because they've got the EQE in, they've got the EQS in, but they've got nothing at the affordable
The
end.
EQB also. But yeah, affordable, like an iX1 rival, they don't have.
Yeah. Ford Mustang Mach-E. Do you think that will finally come? I remember when Ford left India, they said, okay, we're not leaving India. We're stopping production in India. We're stopping sales of lower end cars, but we will bring in imports. But there's no news ever since.
Okay, so early or towards the end of last year,
Yeah.
there was news reports that the plant in Chennai, the
Yes.
Marimalai Nagar plant, that they were going to sell off to the Jindal MG combine, except Ford pulled out of the deal. So they've got second thoughts now. Now, what their second thoughts is towards, I don't know, because to bring the Mach-E, they don't need the plant.
Correct.
That will be a CBU. They just need one office. You know, so why are they keeping that plant? Maybe they've realized that they made a big boo-boo by exiting India and they should have persisted. And that all that we said, that it's not Indian regulations and Indian government this and that and import regime and tax regime, because everybody qualifies and is burdened by the same tax regime. And if Hyundai can make a meal out of it, if Kia can make a meal out of it, if MG can make a meal out of it, what's
It's just
stopping
will.
Ford?
It's just will.
Will, focus, dedication, and ability to sell.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know now why they're keeping the plant.
Well, it's good. I'm glad.
And they've sold the new plant. So the more modern plant has been sold to Tata Motors, which will be their EV plant. So that's gone. Their old plant, that they've retained, that they were going to sell. Now they're not selling that. So they've got second thoughts, or they don't have second thoughts, or maybe they'll use that space as a real estate play, because now that is like Chennai proper. Earlier that used to be like on extreme outskirt, but the value of that land must be terrific right now. So maybe you will have Ford penthouses over there, and that would be more profitable for Ford, like a real estate venture. So I don't know why, but they're not selling that plant. And whether the Mach-E comes to India or not, what difference?
I mean,
honestly,
it really makes no difference to
you
you
know?
and me.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to see a Mustang Mach-E in India. Why not? The more the merrier, like you said last
The
week.
more the merrier. Okay, fair enough.
Volvo EX90 and EX30.
Okay, so Volvo is one of those electric car players that is moving aggressively towards a full EV portfolio.
Correct. They're very serious.
Yeah.
They've got
I
Chinese
think-
backing.
True. I think in India, they'll be the first to transition completely to
Yeah.
EVs. And these are the cars that will headline it and headline that shift. And I think that will be a talking point for Volvo.
100%.
Saying that, hey, we are an EV only brand, and then all that associated holier than thou business around it. But it's a great position to take. Their EVs, they're very quick.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about before also. They look very cool. They're a refreshing change from the German aggression, if I should put it that way. So I think it's nice.
Yes.
And with the whole serenity and the peace and the calm and the sense of well-being that Volvo positions itself around it, EV powertrains work in that aspect. So I think, the quicker Volvo moves towards a full EV portfolio, the better for them in terms of a clear brand positioning in the country.
Okay, fair enough. And we touched upon this last week, but I think it's worth coming back here. Skoda and Volkswagen. They're going to bring their EV offerings this year.
I think finally,
Yeah.
because it's been, if I'm not mistaken, a year and a half since we saw the first ENIAC
Was it around-
IV.
Yeah, lockdown, no?
Yep.
Second lockdown.
I don't know, but I think year and a half since we saw the first ENIAC IV prototypes being tested in India. What takes them so long? And it's not like they're going to assemble it here.
Yeah.
But what I hear from internal sources is that because Volkswagen and by extension Skoda, they are mass market brands. So their quality control measures are even more stringent than Audi's. So because they have a certain parameter they have to fulfill because of volume or something like that. So Audi can bring in EVs, but these cars have to be tested even more and for even more miles before it can be certified for certain countries. And that's, it makes no sense to you and me. But in the larger Volkswagen group scheme of things, this is a parameter that you have to achieve this parameter. So now you
They
go
probably
clock the
spent
miles.
so much time charging that car that they couldn't clock it in fast enough.
True, yeah. So with a diesel or petrol, you
just
can
run
put
it
two
non-stop.
drivers and say, come on, drive up and up and up and down. But here you have to stop to charge, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it's taking time. But I think finally it should bear fruit.
Yes, because
This year?
again, like we said last podcast, they don't have anything else for this year.
Yeah, they don't have big volume
Yeah.
new cars.
So they need
this
to
year.
generate that excitement. And I
True.
think these two, the ENIAC IV and the ID4 GTX.
ID4 GTX or GT or
Yeah.
whatever, right? So I think those should come this year. So finally, the Skoda Volkswagen group in India will have, again, these are not going to be their volume cars
No, no.
because these are not their mass market EVs.
These are going to be sitting even above the Tiguan and the Kodiaq.
Yeah, true.
So they're going to be like halo cars of sorts.
So true. So, but this will be their first play towards EVs
Yeah.
until they decide what their mass market EV play is going to be.
Which they need to get on with very quickly.
So what I hear is that Skoda is going to do the sub 4 meter SUV, which is the development on the MQB-A0 Ion platform.
That's their 2.5 plan.
2.5 plan.
Yeah.
Volkswagen is not a part of it, at least not right now.
Yeah.
I think eventually they are going to open
Because it
Volkswagen
makes
because,
no sense.
without that,
The economies of scale.
true,
They
they
don't
don't
make
have
sense.
the economies of
Yeah.
scale. So how is Skoda going to afford to do that? I don't get it. So somebody, I guess, eventually in headquarters will put their foot down and say, no, you have to do it or stop the whole project. So I think Volkswagen will have that sub 4 meter. But again, I'm merely conjecturing
Yeah.
from the outside. But as of now, Volkswagen is committed to go electric in their next development.
Yes.
But that won't happen right now. That's going to be some time away.
And
so,
you think of where Tata and Mahindra are with their electrification programs today in India. Maruti is getting their EV to market soon, which we'll talk about. These guys are going to get left behind.
True.
And it's going to be that same old story of
True.
a European brand or a foreign brand coming in, missing the mark, and then
yep.
they should.
And also, Mahindra is using Volkswagen electric powertrains.
Yeah.
Not in the very first one, that is a BYD powertrain, but the next ones
They're
are
MEB.
all, yes, they're MEB, they're Volkswagen Group powertrains.
Yeah.
So if they put their minds together, I'm sure smarter brains are working there and they've already
100%,
got
yeah.
their minds working at it. But if you have Mahindra volume, then you add Volkswagen volume, you add Skoda volume, you add some other volume here and there. You can productionize all those components here in India and then juice the pricing of that platform.
Yeah.
Really get it down low, optimize volumes, and that could be a big game changer for the group. So until then, they have to survive on whatever they have, but that then can't come too far away
Yeah.
by when everybody's lost interest.
Yeah. And looking at the graph of EVs internationally, they go up, they plateau, and then they drop. And you don't want to miss that curve.
Yeah.
You know?
It's also this whole EV offtake thing. The first movers have already bought EVs. The others who have got ICE are not so sure what to do. So they are holding back their purchase.
Yeah.
So that's why it's all flattened.
Stagnant.
People are talking about Tesla discounts, but that is Tesla reducing prices of their cars because they got more volume, so they can price it more aggressively. So they're not actually discounting, or not everything is being discounted, but they can price it better. So that is happening. Now that gives the perception to people that, if Tesla discounting, that means
Market
EVs are
is
not
bad.
selling,
Yeah.
right? So should I buy an EV now? Do people need EVs? A lot of people cannot use an EV on a regular basis because of their use case scenarios. So EVs are right now being forced upon us by government legislation, and for manufacturers to meet the fleet CO2 emissions, they have to have EVs in their fleet. So that's why they are doing it, and now they've invested so heavily and committed so much towards EVs that
There's no turning
they don't
back.
have powertrain development right now. Combustion engine powertrain development is gone to bed, so to speak. So,
Hard times.
it's very interesting times. You're on the cusp of what? Who knows?
Correct. The next car we're talking about is the Hyundai Ioniq 6. Do you think it's going to come to India?
I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. India, we're focused on SUVs,
Yeah.
fixated on SUVs. The Ioniq 6, it looks like a Porsche, man. It looks so cool from the rear.
Yeah.
But we're not buying sedans, are we? What expensive sedans, apart from the E-Class?
Yeah.
Okay, what expensive sedans are we buying? So, will Hyundai jump in with the Ioniq 6?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Will they bring something like the Ioniq 5N?
I bloody hope so.
There's nothing stopping them because, see, CBU.
Correct. But pricing will be out of whack then.
I've got DMs from people who own Porsches and Lamborghinis saying that 1 crore pricing people will buy.
But how many?
How many they'll bring? They'll bring 100, 200. 200 people, I don't know. But again, I'm not sticking my neck out and committing and saying that, definitely will sell because...
But Hyundai hasn't confirmed or denied anything to us.
but that's typical now of any manufacturer.
True.
Who confirms or denies anything?
Okay, BYD Seal. What's going on with BYD? The Seal was supposed to come last year. I remember at Auto Expo, they announced, Diwali time launch, expected price around 80 lakhs.
Basically, they're not in the good books of the government, and that is that.
Geopolitical tension.
Geopolitical equations, or call it what you will, but they want to invest. Now, powers that be are not, they're not even remotely in favor of that. And that's where it's going to be.
Which is, I think, a pity. A, because BYD is actually the biggest car manufacturer for electric cars in the world today.
Yeah, they've overtaken Tesla.
Yeah. And B, competition is good. It'll drive everybody upwards. So,
See, there are larger issues at play here. There's a lot of sentiment at hand. There's also the whole economic situation and how do we fight back? At least to me, I don't believe in that. No, you let everybody whack you and you stay quiet and say, "How TK." No, we also need to project. We need to. Our market is huge. We are one of the few growing economies in the world. India is where it's at.
absolutely.
And I think we should leverage our strengths. If we are getting attacked in one side, we fight back in other ways. So, see, again, like I said, no, you're even smarter brains than the smarter brains working at car companies are working in foreign policy and bureaucracy and all of that. So, these guys know what they're up to. And so see, Great Wall was supposed to come. They were going to invest a hell of a ton of money into the thing. That died.
Yeah.
But were we, as car buyers, the poorer? Do we miss it?
Not so much. Yeah.
Like,
Doesn't make a difference.
yeah,
But we wouldn't know until we had them.
Yeah, but even then, we saw the cars at
Correct,
the Auto Expo.
they didn't.
It was not like, no, they were going to give us 911s at 15 lakh rupees, Then we would be like, oh, hey, they didn't come and, government deprived us of our lifelong dream to own a 911. No, So, BYD Seal comes, doesn't come. The Atto 3, you drove it once. Do you long to drive it and say, yaar, please mere ko Atto 3 do, yaar? No.
Not so much. But to be fair, the Seal has received good reviews abroad.
Yeah, definitely.
So
definitely. But it's okay. I don't really care too much. If you're a BYD dealer, you probably care. But, okay.
Kia EV9. That's coming this year. Big EV.
Very nice.
That's Kia moving into an all-new space.
They're going where they weren't,
Exactly.
They're really reaching for the stars. And if you reach for the stars, you get the moon.
Yeah.
So I think that's great and looks cool. And this whole EV business, it resets everything. Because then you're not lagging 50 years behind in powertrain development and all that. Everybody's got the best motors. It's how well you write your software.
It's material technology. You make a nice looking interior, space, design, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and then you don't have to command that premium just because you have a premium badge.
Yeah. The EV9 looks good. I think it's going to be exciting. It brings that traditional SUV stance. And it'll be fresh. And the EV6 is lovely. Yeah. And to build on that, 3 numbers up on the 6 means it should be good. Yeah.
I think it will be very nice. And as a brand shaper for Kia, it'll do really well.
Coming back to the Chinese question again, MG EV4. 4 EV.
So we spoke to the MG guys.
Yeah.
Okay. They were excited about the whole Jindal infusion of money. Okay. Now, what do they do with it is a question. But they have all the plans. So it's not like now they start planning.
Everything was planned and now they
because
execute.
They couldn't do anything, but they had all the plans and they must have had plan A, B, C, D, E. Okay. Now, basis the money that they've got, which nobody's telling us how much, what is the infusion, but that money can now be invested into doing whatever A, B, C, D, whatever plan that they have. So we will definitely see a lot of action from them.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's the MG4 or whatever else, and the MG4 has received really good reviews.
Yeah, it's beating the likes of the Volkswagens abroad.
But how many pure MGs do we have in India? Right?
Yeah.
What we are getting are the Chinese market cars, the Baozhongs.
Yeah.
So will we get the MG4 or will we get a Baozhong which is redone for India? What is the Comet?
Yeah.
The Comet is not an MG.
Correct.
So, and it's a very different approach between the two.
Agree. Yeah.
Those cars are low cost
100%.
emerging market cars.
Yeah.
So what do we get from the partnership is a big question.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see what that's going to deliver. The Jindas have been talking about EVs, so the push is going to be on the EV front.
They've said in as many
Yeah.
words that we're going to focus on electrics.
And the fact is, see, they don't have a diesel engine.
Mhm.
The Hector diesel is bought from FCA,
Yeah.
from Stellantis now. Yeah, so they don't, and their petrol engine in the Hector is not very great, right? Their DCT gearbox and all of that is not so great. So again, this whole thing, no, about EVs resetting things, and the Chinese know EVs very well.
Yeah.
And they've got an EV to suit every price point, every size equation, every positioning, everything. It's just a matter of plucking one from there, putting it here.
Correct.
Maybe de-Chinesifying it, make
So
it
they've
a
been
little bit
doing,
more
to be fair.
acceptable.
Yeah.
Though MG does have a plethora of badges on their cars, so I don't know how much that's being done. But anyway, I saw some updates on the Gloucester, some facelift of the Gloucester for some Chinese market. I don't know if those were renders, but that looked, oh my God, I hope it doesn't come. But see, they're obviously aware of what our Indian sensibilities are also.
True.
Now, what comes?
We'll see.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the interesting stuff. Very high India relevance.
Why MG not interesting to you?
Slightly interesting, but this is more interesting. Maruti EVX.
What will it look like? That's a big question. Because
They've
Maruti's concepts are A and the cars are X. But they also said that concepts used to be A and production cars used to be X, and that is now being sorted out. And the EVX will look sort of like that.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to look like that, because that still looks like a concept car.
It does, but I'm sure it'll be toned down, yada, yada, yada.
It has to be toned down, right? So, and how
Doesn't have
much?
headlights, no?
Yeah,
have to
so
put it-
how much toning down
Yeah.
is going to happen?
Yeah. But
I don't know.
But what do you think Maruti is going to do? How are they going to get around this EV question? Because EVs are expensive. Maruti is known for their value. So where do they balance this out?
Why do you think Maruti has taken so long?
Hmm.
It's not like Maruti can't make an EV.
Yeah.
Motor kharido diya se, battery everybody is buying from where. Okay, whether it is anybody, where are the batteries coming from?
Yeah.
So what? There's no rocket science to it. Okay, software, to anybody will write it. You'll go ask TCS to write some software for you.
Yeah.
What is stopping them? That is the key point that's stopping them. The price. How do you get the price right? And I'm sure that is what Toyota and Suzuki are working heavily towards. The whole partnership between Toyota and Suzuki, driven out of the big bosses, the headquarters in Japan, that's because Suzuki doesn't have EV expertise.
Yeah.
Toyota has that EV expertise. Suzuki has expertise in making to a cost in India. They know how to get things out of the vendors. They know how to set that up properly and get also quality and reliability out of it. So why such a long time?
Cost.
Is that they're probably hard at work for it, and they will be able to crack it.
Yeah.
If anybody can crack it, they can crack it.
I think so. Yeah.
And it's going to be that Maruti doesn't lose money on anything.
What segment
So-
is the EVX going to sit in? Is it a Creta size?
Creta, yeah.
Creta size SUV.
So there will be an electric Creta also, not this year, but the Creta also will be electrified in time for the EVX or whatever is going to be called comes in. So that's also going to happen. But ultimately, Maruti and Toyota and Suzuki and all of them put together will make more affordable. And the EVX won't be that. That is at the higher end. But
But they will
they will make
a
an
top down.
for instance, like an electric Wagoner
Yeah.
at under.
We've seen spy pics of
Yeah,
those. Yeah.
we've seen.
Yeah.
But those are all test mules.
Yeah.
But they will do it. And that's how the whole lineup starts getting electrified.
Once the Wagonars cars start getting electrified, we better have enough chargers on the roads to keep up with the amount of
We
Wagoner.
better have
Yeah.
enough power production in the
Yeah.
country.
Yeah. It's going to be tricky.
Then depends on how much coal and how much solar, how much wind. Those questions then become serious questions.
The other day I went to Bombay to drive the Virtus. I'd taken the Ioniq with me. On the way back, I wanted to top it up. So I stopped at a mall to charge up. And I went into the parking. There were about 10 cabs, all electric, Citroens and Tatas,
Okay.
waiting to charge. So I could not charge there because there was a whole queue.
So you put in eco mode and drive.
Yeah. And then I drove back to, halfway up the expressway and plugged in there, where the lights went. And I stopped for half an hour to wait for the lights to come. Then I could charge and come back.
First world problems.
But so if
Wait, but hang on. Did you do the smart thing and go with the full charge?
no, I didn't.
So
No,
intelligence. No,
But no, see,
Dead Chana.
I was relying on public infrastructure. Pune, Bombay is one of the most driven routes in the country.
But you know, in Bombay, the density of chargers aren't very high.
Exactly. And neither are they on the expressway. There's one charger before the ghat,
Yeah.
one after.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of chargers.
Which is ridiculous, no? Come to think of it, that
Exactly.
what? Why?
Exactly.
What's stopping them? And then you go down south. You drive between Bangalore and Chennai. How many chargers you have? You go all the way down to Kanyakumari, you have chargers. Everywhere you have chargers. And these are those nice Xeon charge.
60 kilowatt.
Yeah. Very reliable chargers, very quick. So,
I don't know.
why between
And
Mumbai
the
and
funniest
Pune?
thing was, while I was waiting, sitting at the side of the car for electricity to come, two next ones came, said, "Oh, kya hua? Lights gaya? Arey yaar, theek hai, main dikhta hu." And then they went poddling up the ghat.
So, this is probably like a done thing.
Yeah. I mean, it is a real problem. In fact, my column this month is about the sorry state of charging sometimes.
Yeah, with a footnote from the editor saying that, boss, charge it and go now.
I wrote that also. but
But Dead Chan agree.
no, I mean 60%, man, that's enough.
Go with when I had the e-tron with me.
Yeah.
If I went anywhere, it would be full charge, and then I would go.
I was being lazy. I don't have a charger at home.
Neither do I. It's in the office.
Correct. But I didn't do it. Okay, now let's talk about Mahindra. Mahindra is going to be launching their first new EV on this whole new architecture of theirs, Inglo, later this year. And it's going to be an electrified version of the XUV.
The 700.
The 700, correct.
I saw a prototype in South Africa last
Okay.
year when we went for that Independence Day thing. Yes, there is some element of 700 in it. The interiors are completely different.
Obviously, new platform must be
Yeah,
freeing up so
it's-
much space.
It's the materials used.
Yeah.
It's like a almost luxury car. You know, the way everything was put together, the styling, the elements in terms of the styling, the detailing out there. I was blown away. We were not allowed to take any pictures. We were given some press handout pictures, but we were told that was the pre-production car.
Okay.
So from here, things don't change. Mechanically, things are tweaked around and testing goes on and all of that. But this is then used to make the dies.
How did it look?
It looked awesome, man.
How big was it? Did it have presence?
It looked more imposing than a 700.
Okay.
Of course, it's also in that studio setup and all
Right,
that. So
yeah.
we'll just
Temper
it's all
your-
relative,
yeah.
temper our enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But we were like, whoa, like it looked so good in the metal.
Yeah.
All those styling elements were so nicely done. The interior was it was wow, man. So
Does the sunroof open? Because it looked like the sunroof didn't open in the concepts.
they told us don't fiddle around with the car because it was a prototype. One genius, he opened the door. Everybody has to do something, no? For no reason. And people started screaming. "Ah!" So that our time was curtailed because of that. So, there's geniuses everywhere. But honestly, overall, that package looked very, very appealing. And that hopefully will come end of this year. Their first premium
Yeah.
electric
It
vehicle.
will be more expensive than the XUV 700.
Has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Because the batteries are gonna cost so much.
materials and
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah. New
And
platform.
Yeah, so everything will be there. And this is not the one that will get the Volkswagen powertrain. I don't think so. I think this will have the BYD powertrain and the next ones will have the Volkswagen powertrains. But it's really cool what they're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
So, of course, we already have the 400, which is facelifted. So that's there. But that gap, 400 and the BE, whatever, 09, 08, the gap is like this, huh?
And then they could
it's
fill it in.
It's a massive gap. So all those things have to be plugged in. And of course, it'll be plugged in, right? They've got a separate EV subsidiary. They've got now venture capital funding in that. They're doing the same thing that Tata Motors is doing. VCs want to fund EV startups. That's Mahindra's EV startup. So it's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening. Taking a little time, but it's happening.
And we touched upon Tata last podcast, sorry. So let's briefly just recap what we said about the Punch and the rest of the Tata EVs that we expect this year. So Curve EV may not come this year.
Will the Sierra EV come this year?
Will it? Don't give me heart attacks.
You never know, man. Tata might pull a rabbit out of the hat.
Wow, that'll be
and
really
say,
something.
Surprise!
That'll be really special. But Tata has a habit of doing this. They'll send you a block your date and be like, we've got something fun coming.
Also, they release a block your date and they show us a drone show. So that's the other side. But hey, let's not complain.
Yeah.
But
If they get the Sierra this year, I think, because sentiment is still hot.
we did the Gone But Not Forgotten
Yeah.
on the Sierra. The comments, it's like a tsunami of comments.
People want
and
it.
wholly positive.
Yeah.
That love and the joy for something that at least we Buddhas grew up with. I don't know what sentiment you have with
No,
the
but
Sierra.
You see it and you see what it represents.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never sat in one. I've never driven one. I've not even probably been close to one that was running. But
And it's rare to find one that's running also.
So-
because those were the days when Tata built trucks and also on the side a few cars.
correct.
But the Sierra, the sentiment is
I
so
feel it.
strong.
I've seen them. I've seen them parked under trees collecting dust.
Mm,
I've seen them parked in corners all over the place. And there is, I won't lie, I've not been close to one, but it has an emotional draw.
Yeah, so
definitely.
If that comes,
Yeah.
I think for that to come, the Sanand plant, which they bought
Yeah.
out of Ford, that has to be fully operational because where they're going to make it,
Yeah.
it's not like now Tata's plants are running at half capacity or anything like that, right? All their plants are running full because they're selling really well. So they need that new plant, which they bought of Ford, to be fully on stream before they can launch this. But
If the Sierra comes, that'll be special. But again, like we're just assuming this.
we are fully shooting in the dark.
Correct.
But
So
we are
Tata
shooting in the
Motors-
dark with like hope and passion and a lot of please.
But we
Pretty
probably
please.
see some testing before they come out, right?
Ah, yeah, that's also there.
We haven't seen any testing.
But you never know, man.
Never
They'll say that, you saw Punch EVs, but now look at this.
Maybe.
I think before this, the Harrier EV also needs to come.
Mhm.
But that they said clearly
2012.
that, boss, that you wait.
Yeah,
That's
25.
not coming now.
Harrier EV is 25.
Yeah. So,
The Curve EV may come this year. If it's that depends on whether they time it with the ICE
combustions.
or they delay it.
Yep.
The Punch EV will come, and that should come soon.
Yeah, very soon.
Yeah. And Altro's EV well is still a question mark. It's possible, but like you said last month,
Yeah.
the market for the EVs is
Yep.
well,
Yeah. So ultimately, they have to put products in those EV showrooms.
yeah. And they need to put products that will sell. So which is why
Yeah.
the Altro's probably taking a backseat.
Probably. Yeah.
Well, that's it for this episode of the three
So on that high note,
high note.
on that hopeful note
Of
that
the Sierra
we
coming to
may
India.
see a Sierra EV. The Sierra EV is going to come.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. The Sierra will come with EV and combustion engines.
No, but
So-
when?
Yeah, so
When is the
that
question?
is coming. But on that hopeful note that 2024 will bring us the Sierra. No, we'll have the Thar Armada.
Yeah.
That's one side of our emotions played,
Sorted.
pandered to.
Yeah.
Then the Sierra, another side of our emotions. And it's great, no, to see these Indian companies doing so well.
Absolutely.
And so well on the backs of not jingoism.
Solid engineering.
Solid engineering, good
Solid
products,
products,
well
yeah.
suited to the market, right niche, right positioning, right pricing, giving
Proper
buyers what they want.
desirability.
And being first movers.
Yeah.
Can you
absolutely.
imagine 5 years ago, 10 years ago, talking about Tata Motors being a first mover? Actually, they were first movers. Now, when you think of it, Indica was
Yeah.
game changing, Nano game changing. But then they
But
did
they-
these,
yeah.
they did this like really brilliant things, and then
Yeah.
so fuck if
I
that
think
Sierra
they,
comes,
their-
man.
Their engineering capabilities, their design capabilities, and marketing capabilities are all living up to the ambitions now.
Yeah, and they know what Indian
yeah.
customers want. They know the ground realities
Yes.
of India. It's not like, say, the Volkswagen Group will consider and research and do market study and do evaluation and wait forever. These guys, how they electrified the Nexon.
Yeah. And you keep saying it. They're Indians engineering for
Yes.
India. So they've got a pulse. They know what we need because they are customers as well.
Yeah.
So that also just makes such a difference.
Yeah, because everybody in the Tata EV management, they all drive the Nexon EV. So they're driving it day in, day out. They know what the car needs. They know what it requires. So I'm
Hats off.
fully for it.
Yeah.
The Mahindra EV, the BE08, when that comes, that'll be
Yeah.
cool. The Sierra EV. Imagine a comparison test,
My God.
BE08 and the Sierra EV.
I hope
What
we
a
can plan this before
comparison
the year
test.
ends.
That is cover story material, right?
Absolutely.
Brilliant. So anyway, on that high optimistic note and on that note of enthusiasm and pride for Indian manufacturing, we end this podcast. If you've enjoyed this podcast, obviously let us know what we should be talking about next. We will get down to it. Like Atish said, that we will do more of these.
I will keep dragging Suresh in here. Don't worry.
Yeah, so we will do more of these. Also, check out our podcast with Adil Jal Daru Khanawala. We are extending our Gone But Not Forgotten series to the podcast studio, where we're going to talk about the Maruti 800, the generations, and what the 800 meant to India. We will talk about the Indica. By now, the Indica Gone But Not Forgotten episode has gone live on the channel, so check that out. That is a Ram Katha of everything about the Indica. The amount of time I was supposed to be on holiday, and I spent a week researching that Indica. I got mad doing that, but I love that
worth
episode.
it. I think these videos at the end of the day, when you look at them, you're like, wow.
Yeah,
you put out something really cool.
So we'll get Adil in the studio to talk about the Indica. What should we talk about next? Let us know. And obviously, give us a comment. Let us know what you like. If you're on Spotify on Apple Podcasts,
go rate us 5 stars, baby.
yeah. And let us know what we should be talking about. Thank you guys for watching and listening.